Well, right now, many of you are getting ready to head out to the neighborhood celebrations, and chances are they include fireworks tonight.
So we know bright light and loud noise will soon fill the sky. And while it's entertainment for most of us, it can be harmful to veterans coping with PTSD. Our Juliet Dreyer has a reminder from one local veteran to be mindful before you celebrate.
We get it. The 4th of July is essentially synonymous with fireworks, and sparklers like this, they don't make much noise, but a lot of fireworks do, and that could cause problems for our veterans. What's July 4th without fireworks? A tradition that brings family and friends together year after year.
I understand that, for 2 days prior to the 4th and 2 or 3 days after the 4th of July, that this is going to be a thing.
Jason Snodgrass spent 8 years on active duty with the Army, including a deployment to Iraq. He was injured and medically discharged, and for years did not recognize that he had PTSD.
There's the anxiety, the shortness of breath, almost feel like you're about to hyperventilate and pass out, which I have.
The Department of Veterans Affairs estimates as many as 20% of veterans who served in Iraq or Afghanistan suffer from PTSD. An estimated 30% of Vietnam veterans had PTSD in their lifetime.
Her name, unit in deployment, and my name, unit in deployment. And then
Snodgrass's trigger was large groups of people, likely from being unable to tell who was friend or foe during his deployment. He says he's overcome his discomfort with loud noises, but sees how it affects other veterans.
On a deployment in a combat zone, you never quite know what is happening and where it's happening and when it's happening. So anytime you hear any sort of, explosion, mortar impact, small arms fire, anything like that, it's always kind of a surprise.
He urges people to know whether their neighbors have served and just be respectful.
I don't want to put a dent in your fun, or whatnot, but there's a point where, where people need to recognize, hey, this might actually be causing somebody problems.
One more thing, don't forget about your pets that might get spooked and try to run away when they hear the loud noises. It's recommended that you keep your animals inside while the fireworks are going off, and if you have a pet that's especially skittish, you can leave the TV on or play some music to dull the noise. Juliet Dreyer, First Coast News on your side.